101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115. 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115. There's no question of the importance to awareness to your safety and security. Knowing what's going on around you allows you to see trouble before it's developing and allows you to then avoid that trouble, which is preferable to having to actually deal with it. But if you do have to deal with it, you're going to be in a better position too. There's a number of drills or games that are available for practicing awareness, and one of them is called Kim's Game. That's K-I-M''S. Now, this is popular in the sniper community, and one of my peeves is the people that have been using it don't know its origin, and they're coming up with something improper. And they're using it as an acronym, KIM standing for Keep in Memory System, and that's just not true. This comes about from a story that Rudyard Kipling wrote, and if you don't know who Rudyard Kipling is, you need to fix that. He wrote a book called Kim, which was about a young boy. He was a bastard that was born between a British sergeant and an Indian woman during the colonial times of England and India, who was orphaned, and then at one point in his life he's recruited as a spy. And while he's still fairly young, he's probably 12, 13 years old at this point. And his spy instructor, as part of his training, shows him a box of items and then covers it up and asks Kim to repeat back what he saw. So that's where this comes from. Kim's Game comes from the story Kim by Rudyard Kipling. And it's a great book. You can read it for free online if you go to Gutenberg.org. It's available there, or LibriVox has it as a audio book, so avail yourself of that. So at the beginning of this video, I showed you a selection or an array of items, and let's do that one more time. So I'm going to take the covering off of this array of items, and I want you to look at it, and then I'm going to cover it back up. I'm going to give you 15 seconds. Ready? 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 115. Now, you've had 15 seconds to look at that, and what did you see? And be as detailed as possible. So, tell me, what did you see? Did you see a magazine? Did you see a gun? Did you see some ammunition? Did you see a set of hemostats? Did you see some money? List out in your head or say it out loud while you're watching this. Tell me what you saw. Now let's go back and actually look at this. Okay, so how much of this did you remember? We had a pistol, but not just a pistol. It's a Colt, or a 1911. Maybe you can't see it quite well enough that you can read Colt on it, but you can tell, if you know anything about firearms, that this is a 1911, and if you're good enough, you might notice that it's the commander length. Obviously, it's shiny. That could be stainless or it could be nickel, and it's got ivory or ivory type grips on it. We want as much detail as possible when we're looking at things and we're remembering them. And not just that it is a 1911 style pistol, shiny finish with the ivory, but the hammer was down and the magazine, well, was empty. Is that important information for you? If you're ever at gunpoint, somebody's sticking a 1911 in your face, wouldn't it be nice to know if the hammer is cocked or not, and knowing that if it's down, the gun's inoperable until it's cocked? That could be useful. Not just that there was a couple of pencils in there, but that one was sharpened and one wasn't. And one was round and one was the typical shape with the various sides on it. And that one was yellow, the typical color, and one was kind of a shiny blue. We want as much detail as possible. Were the erasers used? Not just there was a book, but it was a small notebook type of book, and it was red, and maybe not just that it was red, but it actually said, you know, a firearms training logbook, self-defense initiative. As much detail as possible. Some of you may recognize the elastic band as coming from, you know, the moleskin type of style of books. How many of you noticed the magazine this is all sitting on? And not just that it was a magazine, but it's the American Rifleman. And you know, if you have a chance to see that well, you might have noticed that it was the January issue of this year. Not just that there was some Play-Doh, but that it was the orange style Play-Doh. Did you notice the flashlight? And we're not looking for just that, oh, there was a flashlight there, but that it was the olive drab or coyote or whatever they're calling it, Surefire G2 Nitrilon. There was some coins here. And not just that there was coins, but there was 3 cents. And not just that there was 3 cents, but that 2 of the pennies were heads up and one of them was tails up. Detail, detail, detail. Not just that there was some ammunition, but that there was one 12-gauge round, and it was probably a Remington because it's green, and it's high brass, and it's corroded. As much detail as possible. If you got a good look, you might have noticed that it was a slug. I don't know if that was available to you from the camera angle. And that the 2 pistol cartridges are slightly different, so you should be able to infer that one's 9mm and one's .40 caliber. And not only is there a pack of gum, but it's double mint and it's unopened. So that's the sort of level of detail we're looking for here when we're playing Kim's game, is that it's not just an item, but as much detail about the item as possible. And it's like any other exercise. It's going to be difficult at first. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it, and it will become second nature at some point. And I'll tell you, when you work your awareness like this, it's amazing what that does for your life. And not just for your safety and security, because yes, that's why we're watching these videos, because you want to learn how to, you know, avoid trouble and go home at the end of the day. But noting that kind of detail can work on your enjoyment of life overall. When you open up your senses and you notice that nice breeze on the back of your neck, or you smell some flowers on the wind that the breeze brought you, or you hear some children's laughter halfway down the block. Being open and aware to those sort of things not just only keeps you safe and secure, but it increases your enjoyment of life. Okay, this one's a little bit harder because we showed you this at the very beginning of the video before you even knew what was going on. So unless you had some clue about what Kim's games were ahead of time, you may not have known what you were supposed to do. The other problem is, and this is something you should do when you're using these games, whether it's for yourself or your students, is have a period of time between when they look at the items and they get to describe them. So maybe at the beginning of a class, let's say you're doing a class on use of force policy, or you're doing a class on the 4 rules of safety, or that sort of thing. Show them this at the beginning, go through the class, maybe it's 45 minutes or an hour, and then have them list what they saw. And the longer the time period between when they see it and they have to remember it will make it that much more difficult. So it's a harder exercise, which makes you better at it. So at the very beginning of this video, you were shown an array of items before you even knew we were playing Kim's games. And how much of that do you remember now that we've been 10 or 15 minutes into this video? So you probably remember there was a pistol. That's going to be an attention-getting item. But not just that it's a pistol, but that it's a Glock. And not that it's a Glock, but it's the mid-frame Glock. And not only that it's a mid-frame Glock, but that it has an extended magazine and it has a weapons light on it. We want as much detail as possible. We want you really working on noticing things down to the finest detail, because that may be that one little detail that makes the difference. You noticed a chain, but it's not just that it's a chain, but that it's a straight link chain, and that there's actually 6 separate links to that chain. That there was some cartridges there. And not just that there was 2 12-gauge cartridges, but one of them was clear and one of them was red. And maybe that you could tell that there was a bird shot in one of them, and maybe you could read the number 8. We noticed there's some pistol ammunition, but not just that there was some pistol ammunition, but there was mixed calibers, and that maybe you could tell there was some 9mm mixed with .38 Special, and that some was hollow point and some was full metal jacket. And if we really want to get into it, we would know that there was 3 hollow point 9mm, 1 full metal jacket, and 1 full metal jacket .38 Special. Not just that there's a pencil, but that it's a used pencil. It's kind of beat up and it's dull. But the eraser is perfect. Not just that it was a golf ball, but that it's a Pinnacle 4 golf ball. Could a small detail like that make the difference? Absolutely. Not just that there's car keys or a set of keys, but there's a car key and 6 different keys on that ring, and that the key fob was made out of paracord, and not just paracord, but 2 different types of paracord. That there's a set of hemostats there. Not just that there was coins, but there was 3 coins. And not just that there were 3 coins, but that they add up to 27 cents. And not just that they add up to 27 cents, but there's a quarter and 2 pennies. And not just that there was a quarter and 2 pennies, but the quarter and 1 penny is heads up and 1 penny is heads down, or tails up. So we're looking for as much detail as possible. The more you work this, the better you'll get at it. The more you run your students through this, the better they'll get at this. This was a little bit more difficult than the first one we did, because there was a time period between you seeing this and you having a chance to say what you saw. And obviously, if you're trying to remember something, writing it down it makes more sense. But if you don't have that opportunity, working your memory muscles makes them stronger. So when you're doing these drills for your students, have the ones that are immediate, where you show it to them and then ask them what they saw. But also make it a little more difficult for it. Load it, the difficulty, by having them see the things at the beginning of the class, and then maybe after the class ask them to describe what they saw. What you're doing is you're driving your awareness and your memory so that you become more aware of what's going on around you. And it also, if something does happen and the police need you at some point in time to testify, you're a good witness. And so that's the purpose of this game, Kim's game, is to give you a chance to practice awareness and memory retention. I'm Peter Burlingame of the Self-Defense Initiative. Be safe.